not only are they gassed from that series, but now they're going to the altitude of Denver.
The Heat can still win this thing, but damn did they just screw themselves for the next series.
It feels like you're just
looking
can't catch
anywhere
your breath for more
Yeah.
air.
Dude, the last person on that bench will kick your ass.
Welcome to Gamblin Ramblin, a weekly show where we react and rant nailed it about the weekend in sports betting. I'm Tim Kalinowski, you're Charlie DiSturco, and you are Maria Marino.
That is me.
What are you doing here?
I don't know what I'm doing here in this seat. Usually I'm over there in the host chair, but this is kind of nice for me, I think.
You think?
I think, because I'm not sure exactly what you guys are going to throw at me here. But
Well, welcome to the kids' table, because this is usually, the adults are outside of the room when we're recording, but today you get to join us and join us at the kids' table.
I mean, I'm excited.
And also, too, you can find us on the Action app, Action YouTube channel, Action Network HQ on TikTok and Twitter. Maria, you just came aboard a couple months ago. Here, you host Green Dot Daily. You do a number of podcasts as well. Are you at one point, or have you yet said, "Oh shit, what was I thinking"?
No, I haven't said what was I thinking. It's fun to be here at Action Network. Like, everybody here is just, they're a good time. Like, we don't take ourselves too seriously. Everyone here is smart as hell. Like, I can say that. Every analyst that we have on Green Dot Daily.
Everyone like out there? Or like...
No, believe it or not,
I think smart?
I actually think both of you are very smart and very funny and generally very good, talented personalities. So I'm like, I get excited seeing like your budding careers grow. And then also, like, both of you have been on Green Dot Daily. And now Charlie usually comes on. He gives like very informative, picks. He's got a lot of research. Now Tim, usually we get on the segment. It's like, all right, what are we gonna BS about? Oh wait, we can swear, right? What are we gonna bullshit about?
Yeah, well, Tim, and it's surprising because usually Tim, he's the old soul. You think he'd come on and be the, this is what I think. But he did just turn 21, so maybe he's getting his little fun showing out here.
I turned 25.
Yeah, let's not act like he's like a child.
He is.
You just said, oh, everyone here is like so smart, and then you're like, Charlie,
That's not
you say a lot of
true.
smart things. Tim, you come in like not prepared enough.
Hey, at least you have her mom on your side. Like I don't even have her mom in my corner.
You have to mention that.
And let me clarify. My mom is a fan of both of you. She was, you guys were actually on a segment with me together on GDD, but like my mom was like, that Tim has great energy.
Yeah, fuck Charlie, am I right? Like...
No, I think Charlie's had a slight complex about it ever since, but it's okay. I was just saying though, no, I think you're very smart as well. Like, you're comedic relief. And look, we have a lot of analysts that give their picks, that give all the analysis, so we need somebody once in a while to just come in and, and just chat.
Keep it light, I guess.
Keep it light.
Were you always in like the gambling world, or like I know from just seeing like your Instagram, you were a big UConn, right? That was UConn, the women's Huskies team. Like, that was the start of your career, like the big break.
I don't know if I would say big break per se. Let me give you a little bit of the trajectory.
Hit us with the backstory. Write some notes down.
As you can see, my research.
Yeah, write some notes down.
No, so my most recent job was at SNY TV here in New York, and one part of that was reporting on UConn women's basketball, which I did for 4 seasons. And it's obviously a legendary program with one of the greatest coaches ever in any sport. And I'm also just a big hoops gal. Like, I think you guys can tell from any segments we've done, I know a lot more about basketball than probably any other sport. And then another thing was just, hosting like our sports recap show. And I actually hosted an NFL betting show for 4 seasons. So I've actually been in the betting game for quite a while. I wouldn't say I'm like a sharp bettor where I'm putting in like a million picks. I am selective with my picks.
You dabble.
I dabble. It's fun. It's a hobby for me. I enjoy it. I can honestly say that I've learned a ton since I've been here. Just more about, how to go about betting. And I just find it very interesting. Like, to me, it's just another angle of any sports topic. And, we're known as sort of like a sports betting network, if you will, but really isn't that every network at this point? Every single like show or, any bit of content that you're seeing, chances are there's going to be a betting angle, there's going to be a betting related sponsor. So even prior to my last job, I was at a company called Sports Grid. Like I actually first started covering the WNBA in 2018, and I did a daily fantasy show for WNBA. So I started like fantasy, and then that was sort of the gateway drug to the betting, because
and Kerner was the biggest, the best customer, the biggest consumer.
You were on Kerner's tweet deck. It was just like on his Twitter list.
I wish I knew Sean Kerner back then. I probably would have, become way more known for it. But yeah, I've been in sports for a while, like, and I started in radio. It was a journey, man. Like,
what's your favorite part and least favorite part about working in sports, and I guess that journey that you've had to get to this point?
Well, I mean, look, sports are fun. I mean, prior to going into sports, I actually worked as a local news reporter and anchor for a radio station. Fun fact, is the same radio station where Kevin Burkhardt started. So that's how we connected and bonded a bit. But every day I was reading stories, and it was like a stabbing here, a shooting there, and it was just so intense. Even though I enjoyed it, like I was always a storyteller. That's always been my thing from the jump, was just a storyteller. But then on the side, funny enough, like some buddies from high school started a podcast. I started going on with them talking about sports, and I'm like, well, this is a hell of a lot more fun. And then I kind of used that experience. There was an opening at Sirius XM as like a sports anchor. And I said, look, I haven't done it sports, but I have done this job. And they gave me a shot and gave me an audition, and kind of went from there. So I guess what I would say I like about it is just the subject matter. We try to make it like it's life and death, but it's not. It's sports, and it's fun at the end of the day. And so, yeah, I mean, the journey itself is hard as all hell. I mean, I've been at points where I literally could not pay my rent, and that's with a rent-controlled apartment. But you climb and you grind, and then it's that much more gratifying when you get to a point where you have that security. So.
I'm curious if your news anchor stories for New Jersey made it into my text messages from my mom, because my mom literally, that's just 90% of my messages is a stabbing here, a stabbing there.
Oh my God, yeah.
Don't take the subway.
Yeah, watch where you're going.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to get, so when I started in sports, a lot of times, you get like the night shift, the weekend shift. So I'd be walking around Manhattan, and I'd have like the pepper spray in one hand, and like I have my dad texting me, take an Uber. I'm like, Dad, I don't have like $50 to just like burn on an Uber. So yeah.
Yeah, parents don't get that point yet. My mom is the same way. She's like, I'll pay your Uber on the side to not take the subway. I'm like, it's $2.75. Like I can get the location.
But then once I started making a living in sports, my dad was just like, don't be cheap. Take an Uber. I'm like, got it. Like,
I always say, like, when I'm like taking an Uber or anything like that, I go, what price would I pay to know that I'm safe? Like what?
Yeah.
Oh wow! See, that was that's very insightful.
That's an old soul from him. You can tell.
Right? I look at him like, it's like, oh no, like this bar's down the street, or like we're just going like around the corner. I'm like, you know what? Would you pay $11.98 to just know that you're safe?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, like 20 times over.
100%.
Right. I guess, you mentioned WNBA.
Yeah.
And I think that's like that's like such an interesting topic, because that's something that I've been getting into over the past few months. I know we're in all the Slack channels with Sean Kerner, Jim Turvey.
Yeah.
I mean, just like a normal bettor that watches baseball and has to go through all these sharp markets, the NBA, I mean, the NFL is the sharpest market in all. Explain to us, in I guess like maybe even simpler terms, why it is smart for a casual bettor to maybe look at the WNBA. Not only is it an entertaining product, but it's also a great gambling product to get into.
Sure. So like WNBA is a relatively new prospect for sportsbooks. Like this is the first season that I can remember having, not just like championship odds and like MVP odds, but legit like win totals. Like I had never seen that before, a season, or like over under a certain amount of wins. To make playoffs, to miss playoffs, things like that. So I mean, the league itself is only 27 years old. Like, we kind of forget that. And that's what makes Sean Kerner even crazier, because he started betting this.
He's a sicko.
He started betting it 15 years ago.
He's unbelievable. I love that guy.
But that's a big reason why you should follow Sean, because he knows his stuff. But I would just say that, look, the information from when I started in about 2018 to now is night and day. Back at that point when I was like first talking about W, it was so hard to find anything. Injury reports, like I knew like 2 writers that talked W, and that was it. It's gotten much, much better. You know, the media coverage has gotten a lot more equitable. So the info is out there, but it's not in your face. Like NFL, NBA, it's like every time you open Instagram, every time you open Twitter, it's like, you know, immediately, like, who was like Gabe Vincent was out the other day for the Heat. It was like within a moment, like, you know. Yeah. So what's great is the information is there if you want it. If you want to find it, it's there. But because it's not so like common knowledge immediately, that can give you an edge. Because if you're quick to, you know, when the lines drop and, you know, things like that, then you can gain an advantage.
If I don't have my notifications on for Kerner or Jim Turvey or in like the WNBA Slack, it's like the openers are like -3 and then the game is 11 by the time I like open up my laptop.
And I also think, I don't know this for a fact, but I have a feeling that there are probably fewer people betting it in general. So like 1 or 2 bets can sway things like relatively quickly. So that's something to keep in mind. And for me, I just like basketball, like I said. Like, so it would be a tremendous effort for me to like go and bet baseball, or even like hockey before the hockey season ends. Like that's gonna be a lot of work for me.
No,
and like something like baseball, like 162 games, because at any point anything can happen in that long ass season. It's a lot harder to predict. WNBA is 40 games. Every game matters. It's not like the NBA where it's like, well, you don't know if this player is going to take a night off. I don't want to get Charlie going because he
I could for $1 million tell you how long the WNBA season was.
Yeah, no, I had
That's
no
a
idea.
really
so
good
and this is
question.
actually the longest season they've had. So last season was 36 games. It can vary a little bit because it's summertime. So like if there's an Olympic year or whatever, it could vary. But I think 40 games is kind of a sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
Like let's face it, we all wish the NBA season was shorter. I mean, maybe not 40 games, but we think it's too long.
We'll take 10 games in a season, and we don't.
It's like NFL's too short to get a real. Like we never learn about a team, right? Because it's 4 weeks, 4 games. It's like we don't actually know anything about them.
Yeah.
If you had an NBA team play 4 games, you know nothing about them. Like so if you're right, and then 82 is too long, and you can mail it in. I think that's what.
Right, and also there's only 12 teams. So like again, if you're newer to it, you're not super familiar, it's not going to be that hard for you to get a pretty quick handle on who the best players are, who the best coaches are, you know, just the teams themselves. I mean, the league needs to expand. That's kind of an issue. That's the other thing. Like, it's oversaturated with talent. There's only 144 roster spots. So you have first round draft picks that are getting cut, that, you know, aren't making rosters. So they do need to expand, but for now it's only 12 teams. Like, it's a good time to, you know, learn about it.
Can you imagine, like, the NBA? I saw a clip the other day of like DeMar DeRozan was like, half the league sucks. Like, there's like the NBA, like these the guys that you play, like, you don't realize like they stink.
No,
and like
some teams that they shouldn't be in the league.
Right, and then the WNBA, it's like the first round picks are dying to like even get a roster spot, which is like so interesting. Yeah. It's so interesting because I think. And it's also like the product, and like we saw even with women's college basketball, that the product has gotten so significantly better. That me and Tim were on Gamblin Ramblin talking about 2-3 months ago that the women's college basketball was better than the men's basketball tournament, and even the WNBA we've seen so far. Breanna Stewart and like her, you know, dominant start is so incredible.
What I usually say is. The women's game has benefited from the men's game, right? So I actually believe that in women's basketball, the skill level has evolved at a much quicker rate. So even, again, I talked about it, started getting into this in 2018, like from 5 years ago to now, again, you're seeing the talent just blossom and blossom, but like you see the step backs now, like you see the nice finishes at the rim, like you just see a level of skill that's super impressive, and you're right, like the college game was on full display this year. I can tell you this, when I started following the league, and again, I didn't know shit about the WNBA in 2018. Nothing. I was an NBA junkie. I was obsessed. I'm watching the NBA literally every day. And then someone says, hey, we need you to like, yeah, I'm like,
I could never.
Oh my God, at that time, like the Knicks were terrible, like, But somebody said to me, like my boss at the time said, hey, we need you to do like some W stuff. And I was like, okay, cool. And I can tell you the very first time I turn on a game and I see Candace Parker like palming a ball and like flinging it with such ease for this dime. And I'm like, oh shit, this is good. Like, this is good. So look, it's just a matter of getting exposed to it. And I think that's been the problem, you know, prior to a couple years ago, it just wasn't getting the attention. Like, it just wasn't getting the media coverage, the resources. Now you're starting to see all that, you know, happen, and people are getting exposed to the game and they're saying, okay, these women can ball.
Yeah, I think it's a good lesson too, in terms of what you said, breaking into sports. And any like advice I give to someone is, you're not just gonna go walk in and start asking for your take on Odell Beckham.
Right.
So for me, I was lucky to fall in love with NASCAR, and it's like I've gotten so many opportunities through like NASCAR, and it's like, oh, you watch NASCAR, you this. It's like, well, I don't think the NFL is
gonna be calling you to
coming calling, and so like basically, you know, at one point it was like, if you want to get into sports, get to know sports betting. So that's like, you know, a booming thing. So now like sports betting, like you said, is everywhere. Every show talks about sports betting. So then you have to kind of like go a step further.
Right.
Now, if you now talk about sports betting, WNBA, like go
find a niche.
Go be real good at talking about something that no one else is talking about, and anything like I say about the NFL, someone already said. You know, it's so hard to probably find like a unique take, and like you almost get to be first to a lot of things and like work it out in real time.
Yeah, I mean, I think my approach to it, I was pretty lucky. Like I said, starting in radio, I was talking about all the major sports, and honestly, I had a bit of a disadvantage, I feel like. I was like the youngest person there. I was like, there was like maybe 20 like sports anchors at SiriusXM. Probably two of them were women, and like we're both like part-time. I felt like walking in there, like I'll be honest, I didn't know like a fraction of what my colleagues knew, because they were like a lot older than me, and a lot of them, like, as dudes, like it's a little bit different. Like, yeah, I always loved sports growing up, but like meanwhile, like this random dude that like doesn't even work in sports, that like watched every little thing from the time he was 5 years old, like knew more than me, and I had to like work. I had to consume everything I possibly could to feel like I can hang. Like I have a foundation of knowledge where I'm not walking room and not understanding what somebody's talking about. So like that was like the first thing. But I was lucky I got to talk about I did get to talk about NBA, and I actually think that gave me some credibility with people. Like if I talk about W, they're like, oh wait, but I've seen her talk about NBA. So like I'll actually listen rather than like tuning it out because like, oh, I don't watch WNBA or something.
Yeah,
you know?
She's the WNBA.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, and speaking of the NBA, like we have to talk about.
yes.
We have to talk about Jimmy Butler. How about that transition? So, do you think Jimmy Butler is? Yeah, this seat just makes me a pro all of a sudden. Do you think that Jimmy Butler could be Michael Jordan's son?
I'm not gonna lie, it's come up in my household. How about this? So the movie Air came out not that long ago. They obviously didn't cast anyone to play Michael.
Yes.
And I was sitting there with my husband thinking, like, who on earth could you possibly cast to play Michael Jordan? And we were both like, Jimmy could play him in a movie.
They
right?
look alike.
Look, there's a resemblance.
Thank you.
And look, not just Jimmy, but he's like a microcosm of the Heat with all the undrafted guys. Like, I'm a big proponent of like understanding that talent can come from a lot of places, and there's a lot of people that are really fucking talented that don't get a shot for whatever reason. They don't have access, they don't have this, they don't have that. I love seeing somebody come out of like D2, D3, somebody undrafted, because it just goes to show you that like not every path is the same. And this is a lot of times, like I say it in men's basketball, I say it in women's basketball. Like when somebody's like, oh, this person sucks, I'm like, dude, the last person on that bench will kick your ass. They will go to any gym, walk into any gym and absolutely destroy you. And the only reason I bring it up on the women's side is because it comes up a lot. It's like, oh, I could take her. I'm like, No, you couldn't.
Brianna Stewart would drop 21 on me. I'd probably get a shot up and she'd block it.
Oh, and like here's another example. So you mentioned UConn, and we were, I was here for March Madness. We were betting on UConn. So here's an example. So player named Lou Lopez Seneschal went to Fairfield University for 4 years. She actually took him to the tournament. She was the MAC Player of the Year, but nobody knew who she was. Nobody ever heard her name. Because she had the extra COVID year, she transferred to UConn. Picked 5th overall in the WNBA draft, is now playing for the Dallas Wings. Like, I just love stories like that. And so to bring it back full circle, it's hard not to root for the Heat, in my opinion.
It's a pro move right there.
Yeah, I thought the full circle was gonna be like, Tim, that means go like dust off the skates and try and make it.
Yeah. You could probably do it.
Yeah, it'd be a great story.
Yeah.
What else? Yeah, what else you got for me?
This NBA Finals. Like,
yeah.
What do we think? Like, I don't know. The stupid Celtics. It's like the biggest joke.
Oh well, yeah. We've spoken at length about the Celtics because you're obviously a Boston guy and
anti-Boston guy.
I'm
self-loathing Boston.
I'm not. I don't want to be insufferable. Like I don't want to be like the Boston.
No, well, I don't think you are. Like I think you were the first to say, I'm conflicted about whether I want this Boston team to win because they're kind of the opposite in the Heat of where like they have all of this like very obvious talent. They have a way about them.
They are the antithesis of the Heat. they have a coach who knows what he's doing.
Well, he watches the town 4 times a week. I don't know if he knows what he's doing.
They have a coach who knows what he's doing. They have they have players on their team like with guts. And, you know, like
you talking about the Heat,
the Heat, like that's the difference between them and the Celtics.
I thought you were talking about the Celtics.
No, I was saying that they're opposite.
Yeah.
The Heat actually have a coach who knows how to coach. They have players who have grit and guts and like they refuse to lose and it's like so corny, but it's like this team. Like I don't think it like kills Tatum like to lose like that. I don't think it kills him.
That's
Wasn't there rumors that they were, not rumors, or wasn't someone was saying that they were like out, like after they lost, they went and like still drank and like partied
but that's
and stuff?
that's low hanging fruit because that's like what every team does. Like that's kind of like.
Well, I can say this. So back when Tatum was in college, I actually covered the ACC tournament here in Brooklyn and got to interview him a couple times. And I remember watching him back then and thinking, dang, this kid's good, like super humble. Like I think he is it. Like he is the real deal. But I do think that it was evident in these playoffs that he needed a coach to almost like give him permission to be that guy in the fourth quarter. Like I felt like there was a just sort of like a lack of urgency in fourth quarters where it was like we're gonna just ride our lead, or like, and I do think that's where coaching comes in. And we've talked about like coming out of timeouts. Like that's where coaching comes in. It's like that play out of the timeout should be money. And so
well, I was gonna say I think the same thing is, well, you can draw a lot of comparisons I think to Celtics pre Kevin Garnett in how it was one of the big three of the current Celtics was Smart, Brown, or Tatum. One of them said like we're a veteran away. Like we need, and it's like kind of like, whoa, you have Al Horford and stuff. And it's like, are one of you guys gonna grab this thing by the horns?
Yes.
What a kind of like an outrageous thing to say for a team that's been on the cusp for so long. Like they kind of need someone in there, like a bully to almost.
Well, yeah.
And I thought it would be Horford, but maybe he's just too quiet. He
didn't seem aggressive. Like there were so many times where I was like, he's great defender, strapped up Embiid in that one series that we talked about, but like even that Heat
he's
series,
also on the back end of his career for the most part.
PJ Tucker was.
That's true. Well, PJ Tucker's a great example. That's like the dog. Like that's a dude that is gonna find a way. I think Marcus Smart is actually like that too.
He just flops so much.
Okay.
It's so hard to watch him play.
Yeah, he is. I was saying this watching the last game. Do not tangle with him because if you make any sort of contact with him, he is going to sell the shit out of it, and he is going to get the call because
that's what we have issues with the NBA at times.
I don't like that. I don't love to play that way. I like a much more like pure game. But if the officials are gonna call it and he's gonna step in and take that charge every time, like I don't blame him because a lot of times, you know, it works. But that aside, like all of that like flopping stuff aside, he still is, I think, that guy that will make big plays. Like a lot of it is, you know, Tatum getting doubled and stuff, but he has taken the last shot on how many times in this postseason?
As consistent, and also the fact that like, I don't know, it's interesting. Like it also felt like they didn't have every player on that team. I didn't look at and I was like, oh, they're a sharpshooter from three versus like. He'd have Duncan Robinson, or they have, I mean, Killamore came out of nowhere, but like, they have enough guys on their team where if Tatum was getting, or Jimmy was getting strapped up, they had other guys that could play off it. It almost felt like until Derek White kind of took over at the end in that final game that it was like they didn't have a consistent shooter at all because Marcus Smart's not.
I think it was games 4 and 5 they shot the lights out from three, right? And that was the thing. If they're going to shoot well from three, they're going to be hard to beat, but they're so live and die by it that it can be detrimental. Now, Derek White's a guy, I remember watching him last year in like the conference finals and the finals and being like, this dude, he can play. Like he is such a smart, great player. Yeah. And what's weird is like, didn't he not play as much in like game 1?
He didn't play the series against, what was it, the Philly series. He like barely played and then they like didn't have him in early in the rotation.
Yeah. And then they made that change and I do think it helped them. But we're going on about the Celtics. We haven't talked about the Nuggets yet. I mean, we don't want to not talk about the Nuggets because we don't want to get people upset that you're not talking about the Nuggets.
Matt Moore.
No.
Well, I never like started talking about the Nuggets. So
I know.
They've just rolled by every single team, and it's like not discussions. It's just like kind of quick and easy.
I'm playing, but for real, I read the column by Matt Moore about it was like 25 things that like you should know about the Nuggets. It's really super interesting, super fun read. Like highly recommend. But to be fair, like I feel like we wouldn't see them as much like on national TV like throughout the year. But they are by far the deepest, most complete team. Yeah. So
I don't really know if the Heat can. Listen, I don't know if the Heat can put up a fight, but I said that against the Celtics, and the Celtics roll over and die. But I don't know if the Nuggets take a push.
You know what I was thinking at the end of Game 6 in the ECF? I was thinking the Heat can still win this thing, but damn, did they just screw themselves for the next series? Yeah. Like, could you imagine?
Celtics did this the year before.
With going to Game 7,
way too long.
Yeah, if they
complained about being gassed.
If they could have pulled off that Game 6, which, like, the one possible thing out of a million things that could have happened to prevent them from winning that game happened with 0.1 seconds left. If they could have gotten that win, which Jimmy Butler, to his credit, played like trash like throughout most of the game, didn't shoot well, admittedly, but I think he scored 15 in the fourth quarter, and then to draw that foul and to make all 3 of those free throws, like you got to give some credit there. And yeah, they should have won the game, but I do think it's going to hurt them with the fatigue.
Yeah, I mean, when you play in Denver also, like they're going after after not only are they gassed from that series, but now they're going to the altitude of Denver. It just feels like a big trap that Denver steamrolls, and then could Miami come back and win at home? Like, definitely can. Yeah. And I'm just, it's an interesting topic and how this game is going to go, because I think that Celtics Heat game was more up in the air and up for debate compared to Denver.
Altitude's a real thing.
Yeah. I didn't believe it, and then I like don't believe it, and then like you watch like certain things.
I've never been to like Denver.
We played against Boulder in hockey. We flew in the morning, and we immediately got there. We practiced that afternoon. Yeah. I was like gonna pass out. Like just, we were just like, it's just like warm up. Like everyone's just getting on the ice. I was like, this is the craziest thing. It feels like you're just looking
can't catch
anywhere
your breath
for like more air. It feels like it's bizarre. It's bizarre.
Listen, I don't know how long we've been talking, but while you have me here, any other questions? Get at me.
I have one too, so you go first.
I was gonna say, I noticed that you're like really hard on yourself. Like you watch back. Don't you like watch back every GDD, kind of critique yourself? Like I remember there was one time I was on a show and it was like, oh, Maria like stumbled on this, like she'll be pissed about it. Are you like that?
I think I have gained a reputation around here for being a perfectionist, which is absolutely
Don't ask her
true.
producers.
I'm trying I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
It's not a bad thing.
But I need to. I think my instinct is to slightly micromanage a little bit, and I need to pull away on that a little bit. I'm definitely self-critical for sure, and yeah, I just want things to be good. I just want things to be like on point. I want to be on point. It doesn't happen often, but when I make a mistake, it's not fun.
Do you just want it to be perfect so bad? Like, I feel like just being on camera, like here, it's like, yeah, I want it to go well, but at the same time, I'm just like, you know what, like tomorrow you're on so many times, I feel like you're like, oh, I get to try it again tomorrow.
Here's something I've learned about like television, entertainment, content creation. I used to want to be perfect. What I learned is that being imperfect is actually better. It's actually more fun. It's actually more entertaining. Because if I sit here and I'm not human. I'm a robot. Yeah. Like if I'm not, like it's not perfect, and it shouldn't be. Conversation shouldn't be. It's shouldn't be scripted. It should So that's one thing I've learned in this business is like stop trying to be perfect because you're actually more relatable when you're not.
Yeah, sitting here it's like, oh, I would also play with this pen.
Yeah, and it makes it fun. So.
Yeah. Well, as a producer of her, she's definitely but I enjoy that, and I give her a lot of shit, and she gives me a lot of shit back. But I think that's like what you need is like, because I'm also, we talked about this entirely the last couple of weeks too, like with my cold streak, I'm so hard on myself, or like even when I finish up a show with her, I'm like, was that good? Like I already like the first one, I'm already pulling up like the YouTube to watch it back.
Right.
So I think it just like, obviously. I'm still working on that imperfect, like understanding that, and Gamblin Ramblin is a good outlet to do so. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling here, but like I do like think that like it's easy to be hard on yourself, especially in an atmosphere or like sports media where like it is cutthroat, and like it's hard to like yes, we were so lucky to have jobs here. Like you got in as the intern, I got in as like being Darren Ravel's video guy, and then like next thing you know, we have a show together. You know what I mean? Like, and not many people get that bounce, which is why it's easy to beat so hard on yourself.
I think you made a sort of a comparison to like being an athlete in the sense that you do have that next game, that next like the next play mentality. Like that's like a saying. I do think that because I literally am like, okay, we have 5 shows a week or more, so I'm just like. I can't go back. I'm like just like get it for the next time. But also I think it comes from having an element of care. Like you care about what you're doing. For me, it's also like an integrity thing. Like I'm very careful about anything to do with like names, stats, facts. Like I want to make sure I get that right because I want like whatever we're talking about. Even if it's a quote, like I don't want to misquote an athlete or coach. I just want to make sure that I'm covering them accurately. Yeah, it is.
My last question was just who's your favorite person at the company?
Don't ask me that.
Charlie. Cool, sweet. So Tim, wrap it up.
Well.
Go ahead.
No, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna wrap the show.
No. Answer us.
No. I'll say this. I said it before. I really respect everybody here. Everybody's super fun. Everyone's been very welcoming to me, like made me feel like special, for being here, giving me respect, giving me a chance to be me. Like Matt Moore asked me for a pic on like his bucket spots, and I was like flattered. So yeah, but you guys you're here, so I'll give you bonus stars.
We all the special place in our heart.
My heart, my mom's heart, all of the above.
Yeah, I'm sure. I said thank you. I'm like, thank you for saying that because it's Maria's mom's heart.
That's true. That's the one you're really gunning for here. I'm still trying to get up to that spot. I'm
gonna tell my mom about this Gamblin Ramblin pod. She's gonna turn that on.
We need some tuners. We need some people to tune in here. It's usually just our parents at this point in the show.
Yeah, she can put it on every desktop in the house.
Yeah, help us out.
Thank you. Well, that's enough for us. Maria, give your social media plugs, whatever you want to plug.
Sure. I mean, if you found this podcast, you probably find me at Action Network HQ. But yeah, at Maria C. Marino. Give a gal a follow.
Yeah, she's like, I'm actually here with Pepsi.
No, but thanks for having me on, guys. This was super fun.
Yeah, it wasn't so bad. Really?
Yeah.
It was a little scary. She was asking like, is there like a rundown? Is there a schedule? I'm like, no, we kind of just
I was
wing
like,
it.
do I need my laptop?
We have
No,
a rundown
not
from like 3 weeks ago. It's just
Getting to know Maria, NBA, WNBA. And I
there you
messed
go.
up the C block to the B block, so.
Yeah,
But
whatever.
be sure to follow Charlie on the Action app and on Twitter at Charlie DiSturco, at TimmyCal12 for Twitter for me. This was really fun. It was great to be in studio. Good luck gambling this weekend. Stanley Cup Final, NBA Finals. We have darts in Madison Square Garden. That's why I'm here.
Yes.
That's a wrap. It was a blast, guys. Thank you.